Oi, all right. How's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is the Doodle Review coming through with another banger of an end of year list. This is my third video in the series as we build up to the official top 50 albums of the year. We've done a top 10 honourable mentions in rock, in pop, and today it's the turn of rap. These are basically rankings of 10 LPs, genre by genre, that are great or super enjoyable, but just didn't quite make the main top 50 albums of the year list. So, if you see this and someone you think deserves to be ranked is not here, just fucking call your jets, man. It's going to probably be featured on that top 50 end of year list, which is coming, or it's just not that good. Before we get into it, I need to mention playlists. There's a playlist for every single list that I've created that goes from 10 to 1 and hopefully fits and feels pretty good to listen to. So that will be linked down there in the description. Check it out. I've also got quarterly playlists where it's like one song from every album I listen to in every 3 month chunk. So check that out as well. Let's get into it. Hailing from Detroit and part of Danny Brown's record label and collective Bruiser Brigade, Bruiser Wolf is an off-the-wall, almost surreal, wily personality on the mic, like Wu-Tang's Old Dirty Bastard. He mixes this with the cadence and delivery of funk bassist and frontman Bootsy Collins, while musically leaning things towards a kind of 70s black exploitation cinematic style. This results in an album that's pretty like depraved, to say the least. You wouldn't want to put this or be playing this in earshot of anyone you aren't like super comfortable around, because our man Bruiser here is absolutely saying some absolutely wild shit, but the depravity makes for an incredibly entertaining listen. The writing's surreal and sticky. The only way to describe the beats would be that they are like most definitely off beat. Some of my favorites all year, in fact, particularly Hurry Up and Buy. Give it a try. Proceed with caution. This record is dark and dusty. It really captures the vibe of a dark night of the soul, a soundtrack to like walk the city streets alone in the early hours of Sunday morning amidst the remaining chaos of Saturday night. Alexander Spitt is YUNGMORPHEUS' chosen producer on this album, and his use of textures create that smooth after midnight feel, but his more unusual detours keep things handmade and bumpy in a way that really stands out. Game is the Game is a gritty case of boom bap, and continuing the thread started by our last entry. If you like your beats rugged with great samples and a real raw organic feeling, then you can never go wrong with something produced by Real Bad Man. Some of the beats are honestly astounding. Champagne Pisses, New Levels, Expensive Cloth, and Slick Talk. Lock in with these. You will not be disappointed. I promise you, if this is your vibe. This was my first exposure to Elcamino, who is the main MC and kind of central protagonist. To be honest, I didn't necessarily come away with many lines here. The bars didn't make a huge impact, but he rides these beats perfectly, adequately, and I still had a lot of fun with it. So I only recently posted my review of this via my Soundbite series, which is where I do like quick speed run reviews of records that I didn't get the chance to do my standard deep dive on. For anyone that's watched it, you might recall a couple of records. This one included getting some kind of middle of the road ratings of decent. So it might seem weird that they would show up in this list, but not to go full inside baseball on the whole channel here, but sometimes just due to the nature of like balancing real life with doing this stuff, the reviews, the scripts kind of get written and then wait weeks and weeks, sometimes months before I get the chance to like film, edit and post them. And that's what's happened in this case. I've actually gone back to this Killer Mike record a few times since initially kind of getting my thoughts down, and I have to say it's really grown on me. I still think it's weird that he opted not to just take a bit more time with this approach and release a new album of originals under this more organic, more gospel and soul driven approach, rather than what we have here, which is some originals and some remakes from the 2023 record Michael. But nevertheless, the new interpretations of Exit 9 and Slumber for Junkies are actually really cool, and the originals are even better. Humble Me has a great beat with a hypnotic bass line, and Nobody Knows is a great gospel soul hip hop fusion. This is a late addition to my list that, with more time, could have found its way, 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 way up higher in my overall list. But as such, as it goes at this time of year, it's a rush to try and cram everything in. This felt like an okay placement for where it's at with my brain at the moment. This is probably the most enjoyable Elucid release so far for me, even more so maybe than his work with Billy Woods and Arm and Hammer. Revelator includes Elucid's classic dark, heavy lyricism with production that bites and really sinks its teeth in. The World is Dog is the opening banger on this. I love it. Expect more words from me on this album over the next few weeks. 2024 saw the comeback of Baldi James after running a relentless release schedule year after year after year. Tons of mixtapes, tons of features, tons of albums. 2023 was a quiet one because he actually had a massive car accident. Thankfully, he survived, but understandably, it took a while to get some new music out there. It was fitting then that this comeback should be helmed by none other than Nicholas Craven, the Canadian producer who's delivered one of Boldy's best works in the past, 2022's Fair Exchange, No Robbery. And back in February of this year, he delivered another banger for Bojack's comeback. The production from Craven that you loved, and I think the wider fan base loved from Fair Exchange, is immediately present from the moment you put on this new album. Formal Invite starts with the perfect vocal sample and piano before broadening to include great guitars and strings with drums that capture that perfect 70s soul feel. I think in general, there's a slightly heavier use of vocal samples than the duo's prior collaboration, but that is no issue for me, especially when they're as good as they are here. No pun intended, and Speedy Recovery absolutely draw me in with their manipulated, pitched up, sped up samples that offer such catchy hooks behind Boldy's bars. We actually hear a couple examples of Craven even experimenting with some electronic elements within the confines of these organic instrumentals, and it sounds amazing. Jack Frost has this kind of stuttering synth hook that adds so much color to the track and actually propels what is a fairly sparse beat forward in the best possible way. While Evil Genius also includes some like mournful atmospheric backing synth that imbues the track with just the right amount of sensitivity. Boldy's put out a few records this year. I haven't gotten to all of them, I have to admit, but from what I have heard, which was his collaboration with Conductor Williams, which I wasn't that keen on, this is far and away the winner and ranks quite highly for me. So this album was released with a bit of a fake out with regards to a supposed biopic movie of 21 Savage titled American Dream that actually never existed beyond the trailer. While this hadn't come to light during my review, I do remember remarking on an overall lack of introspection, considering that this was supposed to be, soundtracking a biopic. Ultimately, though, I don't really visit a 21 Savage release for epiphanies or moments of clarity. For me, it's always just about the fun from dark, dumb, heavy trap beats, and this album has a lot of those. Red Rum, Dangerous, Nina in particular are immense Metro Boomin beats that make me yearn for another Savage Mode record at some point. There's also a bunch of great features like Travis Scott, Doja Cat, and Lil Durk on display. Savage occasionally lets this down for me with the constant ad-libs of pussy and that line in Pop Your Shit, it smells like gas, I think somebody pooped. Still though, this is a really fun listen. Speaking of fun, let's talk about We Don't Trust You, the first of two collaborations this year between Future and Metro Boomin. A Future album always brings some great collaborations, and that is no different on this record. But initially, I was surprised by how energized the guy sounds on his own tracks, particularly at the front end of this record. Ice Attack, Claustrophobic, and Young Metro all hit with tight flows from an artist that I think can sometimes just rely on a beat and his charismatic voice to carry him. The collaborations, though, they are also no slouch. Some of the heaviest hitters on this record, in fact. Type Shit comes in early on with a 1-2 combo of Travis Scott and Playboi Carti and is for sure up there with one of my favorite tracks on the whole album. I love how the Travis section morphs the entire beat, which until this point had been based around kind of church bells, and it moves it into this super syrupy psychedelic section. That's a hook in and of itself before Travis begins his crooning. The track pivots back to the harder church bells section, which allows then Carty to drop one of his more dynamic flows. This track is a collab that's greater, I think, than the sum of its parts. Scott actually shows up again on the track Cinderella, which is a deep cut with more of a delicate beat. And obviously, as well, there's the Kendrick Lamar feature that sparked one of the best rap beefs of all time with Like That, and his Take No Prisoners all out assault on Drake and J. Cole. As is always the case on a blockbuster trap album like this, it's got some superfluous tracks, and with a bit more editing on the back half, this could have been a contender on my main top 50 albums of the year list. As it goes, though, this is still a really fun listen and one that's worth checking out if you love trap. I did a super deep dive on this album not long ago, so I'll keep this light. All my full reviews are linked in the description below if you're interested. Ultimately, I love the narrative and the themes of identity running through this record, but on a song for song basis, I haven't found this Tyler album as sticky as his work usually is. Weirdly, for me, it's the heavier tracks that don't do it as much for me, but the softer stuff here is incredible. Darling I is one of Tyler's strongest pop songs since Earthquake, and you also have like Judge Judy, Tomorrow, and Like Him, which are amazing. I think this one is going to grow in stature with me in the long term, but even as it stands, it's like maybe a little lower than the rest of his albums. It's still an incredible, entry into this body of work from Tyler, the Creator. Definitely deserves this spot. At number one, I'm putting the supposed final Childish Gambino record, Bando Stone. While I found that on both Bino records this year, Glover just couldn't get out of his own way and seemed to overthink everything, from like overcorrecting Atavista to trying to do too many things with this one. If you strip away all of the outside context, Bando Stone is still an amazing collection of tracks. The heart of the record is Glover's experience with fatherhood, which poses an interesting comparison actually to CHROMAKOPIA, where Tyler spends a great deal of the album holding kind of an internal dialogue of whether he could be a good dad or if he even really wants to. The huge feel-good pop of a track like Bando Stone's Real Love could almost be a direct response or antidote to Tyler's internal struggle on responsibility. The track shares a whole lot of emotion in very few words, and all of it communicating that for Glover, fatherhood has been the perfect crystallization of the concept of love. Bando Stone is a bit of a jumbled mess, which is magnified by the expectation and perception of like the movie tie-in aspect and the whole final album shtick. But at the same time, it's got some unquestionably good songs on the thing, and it's got a great heart too. All right, there you go. Those are my top 10 rap honorable mentions of 2024. Don't forget to come back for the main top 50 albums of the year list, hitting very, 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 very soon. Subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Check out all my playlists below, all of the other reviews. They're linked in the description. If you can be asked to do all that, you may as well subscribe, stick around, share some thoughts, show some love, or just hold some abuse. Other than that, take care, mate. Mine, how you go. Cheers. Bye.